game stop.
Hello, sorry, hello. Someone on our right, someone on our right. Don't stand here, don't stand here. There's someone on our right here.
I fragged it right though.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There might be another one. Should I frag it again?
Up to you.
Here.
It's hard to throw in there though.
Oh, fuck.
Oh.喂，我知道。我準備喺嗰邊啊。The fuck? Oh, there. OK， 等我嚟，等我嚟。So hey guys, this is Roxum087. Sorry for the short video. It's because on that day, that site was really dark and I only managed to get about 3 to 4 minutes of usable footage. But I hope I can make it up with a quick Q&A. So this is my GHK G5. I've owned this for quite some time now, since 2014, 2015 I think. So the manufacturing date, I'm not entirely sure, is because I think I bought it at the beginning of 2015. So just roughly 2014, 2015. And back then, the G5 did have a few proms. I'm not entirely sure if these proms still exist, but my stock is very, very wobbly. Like when I first got it, it was wobbly and it still is just as wobbly. You can't really fix it. It's because there's simply not enough plastic here. Like I can clearly see that there's a play between the button and this, so you can't really fill it in. It's because if you fill it in right there, I can never fold the stock, right? So that's nothing I can do there. And the reason why I didn't use the stock adapter is because I'm actually studying the GHK G5 as well, and when I first got this rifle, I decided to run it only with this stock just to see how long this rifle will last. And it turns out, if you go through about, let's say, 2,000 rounds or so, or 3,000, 4,000 rounds, depending on how rough you are with the gun, it seems to crack the receiver. So for me, I basically cracked this in 4 different occasions in Hong Kong games. No, oh sorry, I phrased that wrong. So basically, I played 4 games in Hong Kong, 1 outdoor, 1 indoor, and then I cracked the receiver. It took me that long to blow through 3,000, 4,000 rounds, is because with the GHK G5, I am spamming my trigger, but I'm just not blowing through a lot of mags. So it took me quite some time to get up to 4,000 rounds, especially with gas holdbacks. It takes a little bit more time. And the crack is... So let me disconnect this from my sling. The crack is right over here. So since then, I have filled up the gun with epoxy. You might be able to see that. It's right there. I filled my receiver with epoxy just to see if I can prevent this from cracking anymore. Someone has also told me to use super glue to fill out this area. I might do that, but it just makes the gun look a little bit ugly because there's a little bit of a glue mark there, right? So I don't really want to add anything. I just filled it with epoxy. And another problem that the gun had when I first got it was I couldn't turn the hop-up chamber. So the hop-up chamber in here is actually located right where the hole for where the charging handle locks. I have it on this side, on my left side of my rifle. You can have it on the right side if you want, but here's where you turn the dial. The dial would not turn. So I needed to file the dial. Actually, it's round, and I just filed it, and then just to make sure I can turn it with a screwdriver. I just take a screwdriver and just reach in here, and then turn the dial, because there's no way you can stick your finger in there. And the third problem that I had is the charging handle. So this is the faceless aluminum charging handle. This is basically a must-have, is because the stock one is made of plastic. I think I broke the stock one before I took this rifle to a game. Like, I think I broke it after I tried it maybe like 20 shots or so. When I tried to do this, when I tried to do a HK slap, and I basically snapped it off right then and there. So I basically had to get this on the first day. It took me a little while to find this, is because the faceless charging handle is not always in stock, although I might be wrong about that. Thing that I needed to do was swap out the original hop-up rubber. The original hop-up rubber is gray color. All the GHK gray rubbers have a very, very small nub, and they also tend to fold on themselves, or some people like to describe it as swelling. Personally, I think it's folding, and your BB goes in and it just snags the lips, so it makes it look like it's swelled up, when in reality it looks like you just tore it, or it caught on the lips and it collapsed upon itself. That hop-up rubber is absolute crap. It basically doesn't generate much hop, if at all. If it does generate hop, you have to turn it all the way up, and it makes your BBs like over-hop like mad. Is because you have to turn the setting all the way high up. So that hop-up rubber is really bad. For now, in this rifle, I am using a 60-degree rubber. And the reason why I'm using a 60-degree rubber is because I'm using a 1 joule nozzle, and basically, if I have the hop-up turned on a 60-degree nozzle, it provides just enough stoppage so that when it pushes the BB very quickly, it will catch it into the nub. If you use a 50-degree rubber, sometimes the BB might go past the nub. So that's the reason why I use 60-degree rubbers for GHKs. Is because the recoil on GHKs, if you use 1 joule nozzles, and if you tune it a little bit, the way they push the BB is that they sometimes push it right past the nub. You can try it if you want. If you have a 50-degree rubber, try turning up the hop-up rubber and try shooting with it. I guarantee you your BBs will fly all over the place. It's because it's not holding it in the right position every single time. So for me, I purchased a 60-degree maple leaf hop-up rubber. I needed to modify the feed lips a little bit, is because the feed lips on the maple leaf rubber is a little bit longer than usual relative to other AEG rubbers. And in case you didn't know, GHKs, they use AEG rubbers, unless if you use a special hop-up system. For example, I have a faceless AMD 65 in here with an A+ hop-up chamber. That uses its own special rubber. It does not use an AEG rubber. You can also buy one of those TNT hop-up chambers. It uses a proprietary rubber. So in those cases, you can't use an AG rubber. And the last thing that I did was that, if you notice on the rifle, there's no sling points. So I actually purchased a Real Steel Magpul QD point thingy, I forget what you call this, so that I can attach my sling onto it. I rarely use QD anymore, is because I find the QD to make a bit of noise. But this is the only solution that I've found. If you use the RSA mounts, the ones that you can use a power clip to hook onto it, if you move it a little bit too far, it gets snagged on this area over here. So that's the reason why I'm not using those power clips. It's because with the RSA, because it sits a little bit lower, once the sling swings over here, it will hit the edge of the receiver. And I was worried about damaging the whole entire gun is plastic, right? So I was worried about breaking it. And you know what? I did eventually break it. I partially cracked the receiver. And the final problem, and this is the final problem, I swear, is the muzzle brake. So muzzle brake, flash hider, whatever you like to call it, for some odd reason, I don't really know why, I've seen this for several years now. For the GHK G5, your BBs will hit the tip of this if you don't change it. The second you crank the hop up a little bit, it'll just hit it, and your BBs will break inside this cage. Is because the entrance over here, it's a bit too narrow. So as you can see, I fouled mine. I actually took a Dremel to it and I fouled it all around. This is just made of aluminum, so it's very easy to do. You can do it with a handheld file if you want. And after I did that, BBs come out perfectly fine. I've been using this basically since the first day I got it. Actually, the first time that I took it to a game, I couldn't use the muzzle brake, is because it couldn't let a BB get all of it. A BB couldn't even leave the muzzle brake. So I actually ran my first game with no muzzle brake at all, which is not a big deal. Because the only reason why I really want one is because I want to hide my PDI type bore. I'm using a PDI type bore in here. I believe this is a 230mm. I can't remember. I know it's a 6.01. I can't remember what the exact length is, but you can see that it does stick out a little bit. You can see my inner barrel right there. And the reason why I'm using a type bore is because once you have a type bore with a 60-degree rubber and the 1 joule nozzle, this shoots right at 1.26 joules at 24 to 27 degrees in Hong Kong using airsoft surgeon green gas, which is perfect for me. Just to give you guys a heads up, if you guys are in Hong Kong just like me, if you purchase the GHK G5, please be wary that in the past 2 to 3 years, the temperature in the summer has been a little bit hotter than usual. Especially when you're outdoors. So the power of these rifles, it can step up all the way to 1.5 joules, even if you're using a 1 joule nozzle. So just be very careful of that. Your gun will be shooting quite hot, especially if you choose to do the type bore upgrade like me. Your rifle might even be shooting a little bit more powerful than that. When I had the high power nozzle, one time I went to a game, and this was shooting 1.96 joules. Very, very close to 2. Back then, I didn't upgrade the inner barrel. I just left it stock, and I changed the rubber to a 60-degree rubber. Back then, I was still using the stock GHK inner barrel, and it was shooting 1.96 joules with the high flow nozzle. It came with a high flow nozzle, by the way. I think there are versions that you can get with 1 joule, and there are versions you can get with high flow nozzle. I didn't know that back then, so I just got one with a high flow nozzle, and then I bought the 1 joule nozzle separately. So yeah, it's actually a very, very nice rifle. This is probably one of my favorite gas pullbacks, even though this is not a rifle that represents anything in the real steel world. Maybe the Scorpion Evil, because it sort of resembles it, as you guys can see. I will actually be picking up an ASG Scorpion soon, and you can see the resemblance. And the recoil on this thing is absolutely fantastic. A lot of people have been telling me, have I ever fidgeted around with the aluminum bolts? I have never used an aluminum bolt with the system. Because the first day I got it, the recoil was so much fun, I just opted to keep the stock bolt. Just remember that if you're using the stock bolt, make sure you polish the bottom side of it, and make sure you polish your hammer. Is because there's a large die cast mark in the middle of your bolt. You guys will know what I mean the second you guys see it. Otherwise, that's really the only things that I did, and the only things that I need to look out for with my GHK G5. I didn't do much to it, as you guys can see. I kept this really stock, and I only changed out what I absolutely had to, and I modified what I absolutely had to. When I first got this though, oh sorry, another additional problem, which you guys might not want to hear, is the magazine release. Sorry, is the bolt catch. So on my bolt catch, which is this silver thingy, it's very similar to the thing that you guys see in the Gen 2 M4s now. So this thing, I bent it a little bit. And the reason why I bent it a little bit is because this thing was not catching my bolt when I first got my rifle. So I bent the tip of it a little bit. I don't know if you guys can see. You can still see the focus. Can you see the shape of it? Looks a little bit odd at the tip. Is because I hammered it with a steel hammer. This thing is made of steel, by the way. So the only way you can tell is if you have a bolt lock problem. You can stick your mag in here with your receiver open, and you can see if this thing lifts up. If it doesn't lift up, then you know that's the problem, right? Or there's something wrong with your mag, so on and so forth. It's very easy to diagnose. The rifle is really quite simple, to be quite honest with you. So yeah, that's it for the video. Actually, in many ways, you can sort of treat this as a review, is because it basically tells you more or less the things that you need to know. In the 2017 version, they did change a few things. I'm not going to quote exactly what they changed, is because I don't own a 2017 version. I've handled one, I've fixed one, but I did not look into it extensively. So you guys are going to have to figure that out yourselves. I'm just here to tell you that I've had these problems. They are relatively easy to fix because most of them are just... Because after you fix them, you basically never touch them again. The only thing that you do after that is replace O-rings, or replace the O-rings on your mag, right? This makes this gas rollback quite simple, to be quite honest with you. The one thing that people still won't like, of course, is because Simoon or GHK never bothered to fix, is the cracking of the receiver, right? This problem has been around with the GHK G5 for God knows how long, and it still has that same problem. So, you know, that is a strong criticism of this rifle, but it's easily fixable. I also know someone who actually made a custom metal plate, so that he actually had a custom metal plate over here and another plate over here, and then he clamps it down so his receiver can never separate. So even if this area cracked, it can never truly leave or separate or crack, which is a very cool idea. I'll try to take a picture for you guys next time. Anyways, that's it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Sorry for the long discussion. Peace, guys. Happy shooting.